Welcome to the deep dive. We cut through the noise, the research, the data, so you can get up to speed on vital topics fast. Today we're putting a big spotlight on an organ that, well, often flies under the radar until there's a real problem, the liver. People call it the body's busiest processing plant, and if you've ever wondered what happens when that plant gets slammed with unexpected overtime, well, you're about to find out. Our sources today, they offer a really unique angle on liver wellness. We're focusing on alcohol's impact, sure, but also on practical advice and, interestingly, traditional botanical remedies. Things highly relevant for listeners, say, in Kenya. So our mission isn't just about warnings, it's about understanding the how and why. How the liver works, why alcohol challenges it so fundamentally, and crucially, what specific steps you can actually take for better long-term health.
Exactly. We want to get past just knowing something is bad for you. We need to dig into the physiology, the why. Let's really try to grasp the science behind the silent struggles of this incredibly important organ. It's about getting that knowledge across, quickly but properly. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right. So let's start with the basics. Just how much is the liver actually doing day to day? Our sources remind us it's way more than just filtering. It's balancing your cholesterol, it's storing vital vitamins, managing blood sugar for energy. It really is the body's engine room, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Yeah. That's precisely why alcohol can be so disruptive. See, when alcohol hits your bloodstream, the liver basically sounds the alarm. It enforces this immediate, pretty massive priority shift. It literally drops other non-essential tasks as it was doing, maybe balancing fast, maybe storing a vitamin, and throws all its resources at breaking down that alcohol first, because it sees it as a toxin.
Wow, that sounds exhausting. Just constantly shifting priorities like that.
It is exhausting for the organ. Now, if drinking is moderate, occasional, the liver can usually cope, reset itself, no major harm done. But regular or heavy drinking forces it into this state of almost continuous overtime. And that constant extra load, it starts to mess with its natural repair cycle. Over months, over years, this subtly starts to change its physical structure and how well it performs overall.
And here's the bit that our sources really highlight, the truly unnerving part. The liver rarely complains until advanced stages. We just don't get those early warning signs. So these silent changes, these structural shifts, they're hard to spot until things are quite serious. Which means the responsibility is really on us, isn't it? To understand what's happening inside. So how does it damage it physically? What's the actual mechanism alcohol uses to force these changes?
Well, the sources lay out what they call a triple threat. Think of it as 3 connected stressors that really explain the damage happening at a molecular level when there's continuous alcohol intake. Okay, so the first one is actually quite simple: fat buildup. When the liver is busy breaking down alcohol, it temporarily slows down the export of fat out of its own cells. So these tiny fat droplets, they just start to pile up inside the liver cells. It's like creating a traffic jam, basically. Fat that should be leaving gets stuck.
Okay, fat accumulation. I can picture that. A bit like a backlog in the processing plant. What's the second part of this threat?
The second stressor is oxidative stress. You can almost think of it as cellular rust. See, the very process the liver uses to metabolize alcohol, it naturally creates these highly reactive molecules. We call them free radicals. Now, normally the liver has its own antioxidants to deal with these, but if it's already working flat out processing alcohol, its antioxidant reserves can get depleted. And when that happens, these free radicals can start attacking things like nicking the cell membranes, damaging the cell walls.
Cellular rust, that's a powerful image. Okay, so we've got fat building up inside the cells and then rust damaging the outside of the cells. What's the third part of the threat?
The third is inflammatory signals. Now, when cells get stressed or damaged like this continuously, it activates the body's immune system.
Right.
It sends repair cells to the site to fix the damage. But here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a bit counterintuitive. Over time, these constant repair efforts, even though they're necessary, can actually leave behind fibrous tissue, scar tissue, essentially.
Wait a minute. So the body trying to fix the problem, the inflammation, can actually end up causing more damage in the long run. This fibrous tissue, this scarring, it's not the alcohol directly causing it, but the body's own persistent repair response. That really changes how you think about inflammation, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And it highlights why the sources are so clear on this point.
Yeah.
Because this whole process, fat, then oxidation, then this potential for fibrous tissue happens silently and builds up over time. Prevention becomes key. Mm-hmm. Things like supportive nutrition, regular checkups, they're not just nice to haves, they become pretty essential strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so speaking of support, let's pivot towards prevention. We know that, for centuries, different cultures, herbalists, they've used plants to try and cool or cleanse the liver. And now modern research is starting to catch up, trying to figure out how these plant compounds might actually support the body's own natural detoxification and antioxidant systems.
Right. And that leads us directly to some specific botanicals mentioned in the source material. They talk about a supportive oil blend that's often used locally. The whole idea is to supply compounds that target the very mechanisms we just discussed. Things like oxidative stress, membrane integrity, inflammation.
Okay, so which specific herbs are we talking about? Is there one that stands out?
The main player, according to the sources, is definitely milk thistle. Its active complex is called Silymarin. And the sources emphasize a specific, highly standardized dose, 1,000 milligrams, standardized to 80% concentration. That standardization matters. Why? Because Silymarin is thought to help stabilize the outer membranes of liver cells, make them a bit more resilient to damage.
Stabilizing the outer membranes.
Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned encouraging the body's own processes.
Yes, that's another key aspect of milk thistle. It's believed to encourage the liver to produce more of its own master antioxidant enzyme, which is called glutathione. So you can take antioxidants externally, sure, but helping the liver boost its own defense system, its own glutathione production. That's often seen as a more sustainable way to protect against those free radicals long term.
Right, that makes sense. You're strengthening the internal factory itself, not just importing temporary help. Okay, what about dealing with that fat buildup? Removing the backlog, promoting bile flow seems important there.
Exactly. For bile support, the sources point to artichoke extract and also dandelion extract. Artichoke contains compounds like silymarin, and it's traditionally used specifically to help stimulate bile flow. Bile is crucial, it helps digest fats and gently removes waste and toxins. Dandelion is often seen as a mild bitter tonic. It's widely used in African and European folk traditions, again, thought to support healthy bile production and just general digestive comfort.
Okay, so we've got membrane support from milk thistle and bile flow support from artichoke and dandelion. What about tackling that inflammation piece, the one that could lead to scarring?
Well, that's where turmeric comes into the picture. Its famous active ingredient, curcumin, provides antioxidant effects, yes, but it also may help balance inflammatory responses, keeping them within normal, healthy ranges. So it directly addresses that risk of stress, triggering too much inflammation and potentially leading to fibrous tissue down the line. And then finally, circling back to fighting that cellular rust, we have grape seed extract. This one is incredibly rich in compounds called proanthocyanidins, potent stuff. Their main job is neutralizing those free radicals we talked about. And think about this, the liver processes about 1.5 liters of blood every single minute. So supporting the health of the blood vessels within the liver is also hugely important. Grape seed extract helps there too.
Wow. 1.5 liters a minute. That really puts it in perspective. It's like running a non-stop bottling plant. No wonder it needs support. Understanding that workload, that mechanism of damage, it really helps you appreciate why ingredients targeting cell integrity and fighting free radicals could be so important for an organ working that hard. And as you mentioned, for listeners in the region, the source notes a simple way to use this kind of blend. Just 1 milliliter mixed into water, juice, or even traditional uchi taken daily.
Exactly. Simple application. But this brings us to a really crucial point, doesn't it? We can't just supplement our way out of lifestyle challenges.
Yeah.
The sources are very clear. Supplements are potentially supportive, like scaffolding. They're not a replacement for the main structure.
Right, absolutely. So what are the practical non-supplement steps, the practical liver love tips the sources say we should be doing right now?
Okay, 3 key things. First, probably the simplest pacing strategy. Try to alternate every alcoholic drink with a glass of water. It helps with dilution and just slows down intake. Second, if you are having a night out, try to pair it with vitamin B-rich foods. Things like ground nuts, beans, maybe brown ugali if that's available to you. Vitamin B is really important for energy metabolism, which the liver is heavily involved in.
Makes sense. Support the energy systems. And the third tip, I suspect this one is really about giving the liver that crucial break.
It is. It's the rest period. Aim for at least 2 consecutive alcohol-free days each week, minimum. This gives the liver a proper 48-hour window to catch up on all its other vital jobs, the cholesterol balancing, the vitamin storing we talked about, and to properly run its natural repair cycles without the added stress of alcohol.
That 2-day break, it sounds like a direct answer to that constant overtime problem we identified earlier. Good practical advice. And let's definitely close this loop, as you said, with that final, absolutely crucial reminder from the sources. Any supportive botanicals, like the ones we discussed, are meant to be used alongside a balanced diet and proper medical advice, never instead of them. And of course, the standard vital disclaimer always applies. Always consult your healthcare professional before starting any new supplement, especially if you have any existing health conditions or if you're taking prescribed medications.
Absolutely non-negotiable. So, wrapping this up, what does it all mean for you, the listener? I think we've hopefully shifted the view of the liver from just a passive filter to this incredibly hardworking, quite delicate system that unfortunately signals distress very late in the game. And maybe the most valuable insight today is getting a clear picture of how the damage happens, that specific sequence of fat buildup, oxidative stress or rust, and then potentially that fibrous tissue left behind by the body's own repair efforts.
Yeah, it really is a powerful lesson in why prevention matters so much. We learn that this continuous stress activates the immune system, sending in repair cells that, while trying to help, can ultimately contribute to long-term structural changes like scarring. So this leaves us with a really important question for you to think about. If the body's own repair mechanism can sometimes, under chronic stress, contribute to the problem, how can we best support the liver to minimize the need for that intense, potentially damaging stress response in the first place? Really makes you consider that balance between prevention and trying to cure something after the fact, doesn't it? Something to